Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We always enjoy you attending our sessions, and we're here for you. In fact, our presentation today was from a request by a person in our guides@alphasoftware.com email address. So when you have ideas and things, you can send emails to guides@alphasoftware.com. We monitor that and we use it to create content and to do all the things we need to do to really hopefully help you achieve your end goals. So we do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, and we're looking forward to kind of going through this today. So before I jump into that, I do want to do one other quick thing and just give everybody a reminder. Coming up on the October 7th, 8th, and 9th, less than a month away, we have DevCon 2020, and the content is great. You're really going to get an enormous out of this event. Not only will you find information that you can immediately use to bring to your application, also we are going to be showing you a glimpse of the future in our roadmap and all the neat things that are being developed by our development team. And their focus is on obviously increasing your productivity, helping you build solutions and systems that are just going to be amazing for people. So that's on there. If you haven't signed up, go to the alphasoftware.com/devcom2020, register now, and we will look forward to seeing you at that event there. So with that, again, our someone wrote in and had a question in regards to reports. Obviously, we've been focusing a lot recently on user interface elements, things like different ways to present data, different techniques within list controls, and a wide range of capabilities there. But what we're finding very important is that not only do you have to get information in, but you have to get information out. So today we're going to touch on the reporting capabilities. And I really want to focus you on one area where if you're going to gain expertise in terms of creating output for your system in a report-like format, this is an area you really need to focus on, because it kind of blends the best of both worlds of report generation, but also with very powerful and easy delivery of that information to the user interface. So for reports, there are, let's go ahead and change this so it says this right, options. There are really three kind of ways I present report data. And interesting enough is that a report to me is a set of data that I want to reflect back to the user with information that's valuable for them. One is, to be honest, I use the list control. I mean, there's certain information which is just tabular in nature. They're not editing the data. I can use the list control and use the powerful formatting within the list control to really create very complex report representations. Using the FreeForm layout, I can take a grid and turn it into a lot of really cool things. Like I can have it more of a card metaphor. I can have it more of like a mobile-oriented list metaphor kind of scenario. And with templating inside of the list control, I have an enormous amount of flexibility, both in terms of presentation, but also visibility. One of the cool things about the list control, and we've covered this in the past, is that if you can put in conditionals within your list control. So you can show and hide images, you can show and hide data, etc. And it's all dynamic within the list control. So you don't have to write a whole bunch of complex logic or other things like that. You can merely create a set of data, get it to the list control, and then present it in a very nice, easy to use fashion. And the other cool thing about the list control, which is really powerful, is that you can add items or sort of action JavaScript to list controls. So when someone's reviewing a report, they can click on something and then go ahead and drill deeper or do other things. So it's really powerful for that kind of display of information there. Similar to that is the view box. Very similar technique. You have the freeform layout, you have very powerful templating, if then else's, etc. You don't have as much of the interactivity as the list control, plus you really don't have the offline capability of a list control, but it does present a whole lot of capabilities. And the really nice thing about a view box, lightning fast. It is a very lightweight control. It allows you to create presentations that take up very little space. They download fast, they update fast, and you can use sort of dynamic refreshing. So you can say, oh, the data's changed. You could refresh that data in the view box and it renders almost instantly. You're really leveraging the power of the person's client machine to do all that presentation. So if anything, it's better for your server, because the server just says, here's your JSON, gives a set of JSON, and then the client does all the heavy lifting kind of scenario. And as you've seen using Pusher and other technologies like that, you can actually have it sitting there and the server can send messages out to your user interface saying, hey, update your report. Here's the latest data. And then it just refreshes the view box and off the races there. Now, the downside of these two, and there are ways around it, is paper output. I want to basically be able to put it on paper or do other things. There are kind of techniques where you can take data and turn them into PDFs, but you're just not going to get that traditional kind of paper output with those two techniques. So today, I want to focus on the Alpha Report Builder and kind of where you should spend your time building your skill set on the Alpha Report Builder, because there are different things. The Report Builder is very mature. I mean, it has been around forever and it has an enormous amount of capabilities, and it is sort of over time matured to handle the new technologies. So I want to kind of show you where you should be looking from there. But again, the first two are great if you're just kind of presenting data on the screen. Think of that as a great report display capability, very powerful. But if you really want to do something with printed output, your Report Builder is the way to go. Okay, so the Report Builder has three primary report capabilities. One is called the Quick Report, and I'm going to actually demonstrate that in a few minutes. And that just allows you to kind of quickly put together tabular reports, takes minutes to do, and they're really nice for things like directories or listings of information, etc. But not really built for super complex things. It's sort of your starting point. And the cool thing you'll know about Quick Report is the fact that it allows you to take a quick report and turn it into a more full-fledged report and use it with our other report editors. Now, there are two other primary types of report. One is called the FreeForm report, and this is your traditional drag and drop report builder, and I'll show you that really quickly. Very powerful, very easy to use. It's the most mature piece of reporting technology in there, but it has one very sort of downside, is that the actual presentation is done through a PDF, meaning that you generate a PDF and then that generates the output, which is great for like very nice looking reports, but you have two kind of like sort of negatives that go with it. A, it's slower to render the information because basically on the server has to run the report, turn it into a PDF, and then serve that PDF back to the device, wherever that happens to be. So that's a little time consuming. The other is that over time, if you have a lot of report activity going on, that's demands on the server. So you're having the server spend more time just generating report data and doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So that is the FreeForm report. And again, I want to show you it's available, it's supported, it's really good. Up to you in terms of your use case, but I tend to lean away from that if possible. Second is called the table layout report, which is very similar to the FreeForm report. But the beauty of the table layout report is that it can render in multiple formats, HTML, PDF, etc. It's very fast. I mean, it is lightning fast. And last but not least, it takes much less horsepower on the server side to develop and deliver these kind of reports. And you'll see there's a lot of really cool flexible things you can do with the table layout report, which I'll kind of explore today, give you a little taste of it, that actually makes it really cool, especially in more of a, let's call it a modern web-based culture kind of scenario where we're at in delivering systems. So I'm going to pop over into my development environment, and let me go ahead and do that real quick. Bear with me. I am setting that up and jumping over into my development environment, connecting. Okay, so I'm in my sandbox system. I'm in the development environment for people who are new to Alpha. On the left-hand side, you'll see we have a menu item called Reports Project. Do remember, there's the old school control panel, and in here you have reports and stuff. In fact, right here, but all of this is sort of desktop related. So you just don't want to spend any time in that. You want to definitely spend your time, hey kids, there we go, in your web projects control panel and using the reports information here. So we've kind of showed a little bit about this. We kind of last couple times, and this is kind of an outgrowth of that. We showed how you could create checkboxes on grids and then submit it so that the items get, you filter the items that go on to reports. So that's a nice thing. And that capability works good for both the table layout and the FreeForm. So again, all those techniques kind of are similar, but this is more in terms of delivering the end result. So I'm going to go through a quick demonstration, going to show you the different types of reports real quick, and also kind of highlight some of the really nice things that you can do with the system. And as always, Dave will be monitoring our questions area. Sarah unfortunately had a machine go south, so she's not able to attend today, but Dave will be watching and monitoring those questions, and we'll be able to answer any as we go through this. So I'm going to go here to reports. I'm going to click new to create a new report, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new report. One thing I want to link or let you know about is one of the cool features for Microsoft Shops is that you can actually link our reporting to SQL Server reporting services. So you can actually leverage and utilize SQL Server reporting services behind the scenes, which is really cool for people who are already committed to that platform there. I'm not going to demonstrate it today, but it's really a nice feature for, let's say the Microsoft shops out there that need to leverage that capability. So I'm going to click here on Create New Report. This will open up my new report dialog. Now, you're going to see two things. You're going to see a top area, which is where we're getting our data, and then the bottom area, which is which report methodology we want to use. So let's focus on the bottom first. So I can use Quick Report, I can start with a blank FreeForm report, or I can start with a blank layout table report. So I can, once I've decided where I'm getting my data, I can define which kind of editor and environment I'm going to use at that point. Now, if you'll notice up here, there are 3 different sources of data. So basically it's saying, hey, you know what, you want to do a report, where are you going to get your data from? So the one that's most often used is SQL data sources. So that uses connection strings, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate today. That connects to a database and extracts that information and puts it into your reporting capability. Secondarily, we have our custom data source, which have used a lot more recently. What this allows you to do, and it's really cool, you can actually generate a Xbasic script that is called by the report, and the Xbasic script generates the data and returns it to the report for formatting. So the 2 areas I've used on this is something that's very complicated, where I have to do a bunch of manipulations. Instead of going directly to the database, I create an Xbasic sort of routine where I can call the database, get the information, manipulate it, and then give it to the report. In certain situations, it's much faster and easier than trying to create very complex stored procedures and other aspects along those lines. The other, which is really cool, is that I can actually wrap third-party APIs. So for instance, let's say I'm trying to connect to another system that's API-based. What I can do is in my Xbasic code, I can make a call to that third-party system, pass it all the credentials, everything else. The data that comes back, then I can then give to the report. So the neat thing about that is that it really gives you essentially infinite flexibility for you to be able to connect to any kind of system out there for your source data. It's very powerful. It's fairly easy to use. There's a few nuances in terms of how you set it up, but it really is neat. And I've used it many times to kind of say, oh, we're going to connect here. We're going to do this. We don't necessarily have to have a database table to do all this. We're going to do it this way here. Maybe you want to pre-compile data from your data environment and then source it to the report. So that's called custom data source. Really cool stuff. And last but not least is Transform. We actually allow you to, through the API on Transform, to connect directly to Transform and pull and create reports off the Transform system. And the neat thing about that one is that it does a lot of the heavy lifting before we actually use the custom data source, but then this was added. But it does all the heavy lifting to kind of translate what Transform looks like into kind of a more of a data base, relational database kind of structure. So it does some really nice things, and also things like handling images and signatures and all the other nice things that Transform does. So I'm going to go ahead for our demonstration here is click SQL data source. And I'm going to start with a quick report because I want to get this, kind of get the ball rolling. So I'm going to click OK. So once I've done that, it's going to ask me, okay, where are you getting your data from? In our case, we're going to use a SQL connection string. So I'm going to go ahead and click a demo Northwind and use that for the SQL, for my SQL connection. And I built this previously using that, and I'm using the a demo Northwind built-in tool or built-in connection string and database to do this work here. So I'll click next. So now that I've done this, this is very much like building a list or building a grid. Alpha's going to walk you through it. It's going to ask you, okay, great. You want to use that SQL data source. What table would you like to use? And so you select the table here you would like to use. Then it's asking you, well, what do you want to show? Maybe I'm doing a phone list. So I'm going to do company name, contact name, and phone and fax. So those are the 4 items I can there. Now, very nicely, we have a full ability to modify this. This is basically just building a SQL query. So we can add where clauses, we can add order bys, etc. You can also define arguments to pass into your report, which is very powerful because those arguments can be passed into the report, and then you could use that for filtering. So for instance, let's say you were building a multi-customer solution, and what these customers are aligned with, maybe you only want them to see the customers, maybe it's a multi-salesperson solution, maybe you only want to give them the customers that are assigned to them. So you could create an argument in here of like salesperson ID and then link it into the data there. So it allows you to basically parameterize your reports so that when you do your reports, you're just not stuck with a single report. You can actually sort of on the fly modify the report content based on that. And it's all built into our launching capability. Now, since I've selected this, I can click preview data, and you'll see it's previewing the data here and showing me what's going to come back. And that's very important just to make sure I'm getting the data I like. Okay. And by the way, if you want to learn more about arguments, you can click here, and it talks a little bit about how to use arguments and what you can do, etc. It has a lot of built-in piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and click finish. Before I leave here, I'm not going to cover this in detail, but often you need to be able to take certain information and present it a certain way. For instance, Alpha has something called Inc, Alpha Inc, which is a way to represent, it's a vector language that represents a signature or a drawing on top of another picture. Well, sometimes you have to tell the report, well, how do you handle that data? And down here we have something called advanced options. And in here you can actually override field definitions of selected fields. So this gives you a lot of power in terms of going in and fine tuning the report to say, okay, this column in the database, it may look like it's text, but it's actually this kind of text, or it's an image, or this or that, so that then the report editor knows how to handle it. And that's under the advanced options. You may run into this if you're doing some more, field dispatch kind of applications there. So I'm going to click finish. It now is asking me my design time properties. Basically, let's say I had 1 million rows in my database, which is not inconceivable anymore. Well, I may not want to bring back 1 million rows to do my temporary report. So you can down here and put in the number of records you want to retrieve, so you get pretty fast. Because usually you just need a sample set of records to develop a report. In my case, it's a very small number of records, so I can leave it 0. That means bring them all in. But if you have a very large database, you just put in here, okay, I want the first 30,000 rows, and that will only bring that amount of data there. And again, it tells you right here, the advantage of this is just speed on that information there. The disadvantage is that if you need a wide selection of information across all of your data, then that may not, you may not be getting all the data to do the report you want. So you kind of trade off from there. So I'm going to leave it 0. Okay. So I've been yapping a lot. So here we're in our quick report. This is, again, very simplistic. I can select what fields I want in my report. I can go in here and change the width and the label, etc. And immediately I have a report here. Now you'll notice immediately it's like, oh wait, I'm only seeing the company name. Well, that's because when it comes in, because I didn't add them all. That's why. There we go. So you can see it's really nice for these little tabular reports. Put them together pretty quickly. You can also do some fun stuff, like you can go in and if they're numeric values, you can put summaries down below it. Let's say maybe we want to do a company name count, so we can do a summary. And what that does is at the very end of the report, you'll see it puts a little count in there. So if you're doing just like, an invoice or something along those lines. Now, nice also is you can do grouping. So let's say I want to group these contacts by company. So I can do grouping, and you'll see that it's now put in a grouping where for each contact, it's showing the members of that company. So let's see if there's one. Let's see if there's one that's got more than one. Where is that? There's someone's got more than one. Oh, well, it does have that ability. Most of these are single one-to-one kind of scenarios. So, so it does grouping. You can also do filtering and ordering. So this is on top of your data source information. You can also do things like, for instance, you can add a title. So I can say phone directory, and changes come. You can add a logo in here, put a logo in it, a lot of those things there. You can even do things along the lines of adding your own calculated fields. So if it's more of a math-oriented report, you know, quantity times units or quantity times price, you can create those and then those will appear and you can add that to the report. Another thing is that it's got some built-in styling. So I can go ahead and put in, let's say, section borders. So now when you do it, it kind of looks a little nicer. It's got some formatting and all that can be changed here. Now I can actually preview what it's going to look like when it goes to a PDF by just clicking one of these things and seeing what the output will be from there to get that information. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and I'll say webinar QR for quick report. So I've got that saved in my system here. So I always like to start with this because it makes life easy and you can get a lot of reporting stuff done in here, very straightforward. And as you can see, it just takes a mere matter of minutes to do this. Now, let's look at the two other forms of reports. Now, I could go back here, excuse me. I click new, create a new report, select it, go through this whole process here. But there's a really nice feature built into the quick report. So I often use that as my starting point. So I'm going to go back to my quick report here, and I'm going to go up here to the top. And you'll notice something. It says Open in Report Editor. So this button is sort of a magic button because when you click on it, it asks you a couple questions. First, it says, what kind of report type do you want to open it in? So I can use this quick report and turn it into a layout table report or a FreeForm report. So I'm going to select that. Now also, it gives me two options. I can open this report, thus overwriting my quick report, or I can open a copy of this report. So you may want to keep this as your base point and then be able to recreate reports at any time. Really up to you in terms of your process, how you want to handle it there. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to open a copy of this report. And so it's going to go, I'm going to go webinar FreeForm because I'm creating a FreeForm. And in a moment, you'll see it's taking that basic and turning it into a FreeForm report. Now, as I mentioned earlier, FreeForm report is extremely powerful, really nice report designer. Think Crystal reports, that kind of capability in it. But the downside is that it has to render through PDF to kind of achieve its end goal. So it has a really nice thing because you basically can use drag and drop to kind of nicely put stuff here. You can drag pieces over here. There's a bunch of other controls that go onto it, etc. You can click on these here, move them around, adjust the font, etc. And then you can also do nice report grouping. You'll notice that it's got a group in here. So in the banding of here, you can have groups. And so you can create one or more groups that break on changes. So it's got some very powerful grouping. And that's really simple. You just get a data from the database and say, this is how I want to group it here. So as you can see, I can go and modify this. I can drag things around. I can put it over here. It's all, I notice my alignment bars are nice. It kind of shows me how I'm aligned to other controls. Pretty handy. And for, if you have a need, you just want a really nice looking report, it's only going to be printed or distributed through a PDF functionality, go ahead and use this. This is really nice. I use this often myself because that's all it's needed, but it's up to you. And then you can go edit, undo. Let me go back and do that here. And you can drag in things like bitmaps, rich checks, frames. You can also put in sub-reports, linked reports. That's one of the cool things about Alpha is that you can have reports within reports within reports, and it all ties it together. Very sophisticated, very mature reporting technology. But I'm not going to spend much more time on this because, again, I want to focus your attention more on the other report technology I use, which I really like, which is called the layout table report. So I'm going to go back here to my webinar here, or my webinar quick report. I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to open in a report editor. I'm going to do the layout table report, and I'm going to open a copy of this report because I don't want to destroy my original quick report. As you can see, since I didn't restore it, I could come do this. If I had destroyed it before, then I wouldn't be able to, I'd have to go back and restart everything from the beginning. So I'm going to open a copy of this report, and I'm going to call this webinar underscore layout table LT, and I'm going to click OK or save. Now I'm into the layout table report. Now you'll see immediately it's similar and it has similar capabilities, but it's very different in one primary way. I want you to think of this as sort of a grid technology. So you'll notice when I click up here, it highlights this whole area here. It's not just that one control, it's this cell. If I click here, it is a cell. And then you see I have these different cells here. So that's the first thing you got to kind of get used to when you're using the table layout, is the fact that in this scenario, you are basically creating and managing sort of a spreadsheet metaphor of cells. And within those cells, it actually then has content within those cells. So let's take a couple examples. I'm just going to go ahead and delete. I'm going to clear out this cell content. So you'll notice to edit a cell, I select it, and then I'm right-clicking on my mouse. That gives me a whole bunch of different things I can do. You can merge cells. I'm going to edit the cell content. You can add new columns, new rows, things like that. So this has a lot of the flexibility for you to do layout techniques along with specifying what is in that. Actually, if I go up and click on this phone directory, you'll notice that this phone directory actually goes the whole width, or this company name here. If I right click on here, you'll notice that I have merged the cells. So that's one idea from formatting. So I'm going to split the merged cells. And now you'll notice it's gone back to the 4 columns that are the core part of this. But if I want to, I can click, highlight, and then I can merge those, and it turns it into one single row with those columns merged. So it takes a little bit. I mean, I got to tell you, the FreeForm is like click, click, drag, drop, etc. A little quicker on the get-go, but you'll see in a minute, really, this is a way to go on that because of some of the flexible things you can do. So what's kind of cool about this is now I can go into this cell right here. I can right click on it and I can edit the cell content. So I'm going to click on here. And you'll see immediately I have a number of different ways I can populate that cell. So again, think of it as a spreadsheet. You've got an individual cell. We can put something in that. So first I could put some static text, just hello webinar, and click OK. So now within that cell, that's always going to present the word webinar. And I can use my formatting tools and other things up here on the control bar to modify those. Let's go ahead and edit the cell content. Now, the one I want to show you now is that I can also pick a field to display in that. So as you can see, it's showing me my fields from the database, the calculated fields that were created by me for the count information, and then also I can put in some system information. So for instance, the page X of X, the number, date, etc. All of those are available to you. So in this case, I'm going to put back in there facts, click OK, and now you'll notice that the cell has got like a little curly bracket, the word facts, and close curly bracket. So I'm going to edit that cell content. I can put in an expression, and this is a full expression builder. So I can literally go in here and create an expression that will output that data element plus other maybe static text. So that's one way to do, or do calculations on that. That's all built into it. And you'll see now it's giving me the type and things like that. Now, a couple other things you can do. You can put in a static image. So this could be a web project image, a built-in image, or an outside image. So since this renders really nicely, you can put images within your cells very simply. Now, this is one I really enjoy. It's called static HTML. So in here, basically, I can treat this as like and I've used this a lot recently, is that I can treat it as sort of a like a list or a view box. I can click on here and I can say, hello world, facts number is, oh, by the way, you have to put in HTML. I can sit there and say dash, and then I can insert a field. And what it will do is it will merge all this together into HTML. And what's great about that is now, instead of fighting like styling using like, the traditional style, I could have someone create some CSS for me. And then in here, I can apply that CSS and I'm going to get that beautiful representation on the web. And you can use off-the-shelf CSS. You can have third parties build CSS for you. The sky's the limit. Very, very powerful. And much like the view box, I can use what are called they're called command directives. So for instance, notice I can use things like if, else if, etc. So if I can say, for instance, if the ship is the same, then put out the same data element. So they have some really nice little things. So I can do if-thens, like if facts is blank, just don't show anything, or put in a placeholder piece of text or something like that. So I can kind of blend the best of both worlds with JSON templating with this. And again, it's just going to drop that into this location right here. And so now we'll see it's going to do that, and it's going to insert that data there. So super flexible. And these can be both images and text, and you name it, all those pieces there. So that's one of the things I like about that often, is that I can do that. By the way, notice once I've done that, I can actually just click Edit HTML, and it goes right into the editor. So I can create very sophisticated representations that would be normally kind of hard to drag and drop and move things around. So you start kind of picking up. And plus, you can leverage your web design background, history, skills, techniques, and third parties to help you make this thing look fantastic. Okay, let's look at a couple other things here. Another thing you can do is called Absolute HTML. And this is where you can literally create, and this is a cool function, you can create a drag and drop representation. So you can sit there and drag this out there and put, those are already on mine there. But you can create a absolute layout, which is pretty cool because you can do overlays on top of an existing form and other things like that. This is a built-in functionality that was kind of cool. Is like, let's say you have an existing form, you could copy it, put a background in here, and then put the actual stuff around it, and it will display that image with then the text and other things overlaid on top of it. Pretty cool stuff right here. Currently, this doesn't have a background, but I could enable it. I could grab a background image. Let's see if it has a built-in. No, I don't think I have any images in here. Oh, maybe I do. Oh, yeah. Let's go here. So let's go ahead and grab that. Okay. So that puts that in there. I can then, I can grab this, put it out. Oh, my cell size is too small. So let me do this. Let me go ahead and click OK. But you notice it's laying down that cell there. Let me go ahead and open it up, and let's edit that cell content again. Go back into here, and you'll notice now I have more space. So actually, let's go ahead and let's drag this down a little bit so I can see my whole thing. Okay, now I'm gonna edit the cell content, go into the absolute, and in here, I want, for instance, okay, I'll delete that. I'll say company name. And I wonder where it puts, oh, there it is. There we go. I'm a little rusty on this, so bear with me. Let's say I want to put phone. So I'm going to drag it right here, puts the phone right there, and fax right here. Okay. Click OK. Click OK. And notice it's going to do there. And actually, let's do a preview while we're at it, show you what it looks like. Pretty cool, huh? And I didn't have to worry about laying out, doing all that stuff. I could take a static image and overlay things with it. And you can do that on the whole size of it here. And you'll notice it's obeying all the other rules in terms of grouping and stuff like that. And that's called the absolute HTML layout. Pretty handy because you can just get, and you can see, I can say, oh, yeah, I want to edit that there. I can take this and then move it over a little bit. And you notice it's like pixel perfect. Notice how it's got the little handles to show you where stuff are at so you can match it up and get it looking pretty nice. That would be very hard, if not impossible, to do in the FreeForm editor. You know, it just, oh no. Bear with me, I lost my connection. Oh, there it is. It just went off into La La Land for a second.
It scared us there for a minute.
I know, it scared me.
What I didn't get was how come I saw that you didn't have a connection and yet I was seeing it through a connection. It was one of these weird meta things.
I know. Welcome to the rabbit, you know. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Couple other things is I can link a report, so I can put another report within here, which is really handy because if you have a very sophisticated report, you could create sub-reports and then link them in, and then they'll all match up with like an argument at the top level. And you can also do charting. I haven't done much on charting on that, but it does have the built-in charting functionality. So I can, and these are a little bit more old school looking charts, you know, from the original stuff. So it depends on what you want to do. But hey, I can put in a chart on every page and show, or on every record, and show very sophisticated data, which may be good for KPIs or things along those lines. So I'll leave it to absolute. Now, a couple other things here. I've got page 2. This is where I can modify like formatting and everything else there. So you can experiment with from that standpoint here. Okay, so where are the benefits on this? So let's go ahead and show you real quick. And how are we doing on time there? Oh, good, we're not bad here. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go into my web components and I'm going to create a UX. I'm just going to create a blank UX. Go here. I'm going to use my handy dandy, which I highly recommend you create your pre-made sets of controls. If you didn't see that, you go to menu, load controls from library. You can save controls to library. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a couple I'm going to actually create 3 buttons. So first one is QR for quick report. I'm going to go ahead and then create another button that's going to be FreeForm. Oop, I hit the wrong thing there. Let's go ahead and put that here. Add another button. We'll go ahead and put that FreeForm. We'll add another button and we'll do that as, oh man, interesting. My muscle memory's off. Okay, and then layout table report. So very quickly, I'm going to go into quick report, add a new reaction, and and you'll notice right here, it's open or email a report. Click OK. I can then select my report. The first one I'm going to report is that quick report that we click. Going through this a little quick. You'll be able to slow down the replay, but I'm just selecting there. Notice I can pass in filters, including the current grid filter, current list filter, which is really nice. That means you can use lists and grids to filter your things and then say, print the report with just the records I want. And there's some other things along those lines you can do here. Now, with the quick report, one of the other nice things of quick report is you can actually display it as PDF or HTML. So quick reports are nice because if you're doing quick and simple, you don't have to lay them out and stuff. You can just get them done. So I'm going to leave it as PDF for right now. And I want to go down here and it's telling me where do I want to present that report? Well, I'm going to put that in my panel and my panel card too. And I can change some other things along those to make it so. Okay. So now I'm going to go into my FreeForm report. I'm going to do the same thing. Essentially, I'm going to go through and almost do identical. I'll select my report, which is my FreeForm report. Again, I've got all the filtering, everything I need. Notice this. I don't think I can do HTML on FreeForm. So, and then last but not least is the panel card. And I'll set it on panel card 2. Okay. And then last but not least, I'll do my table layout report. Set that out. There, boom. I'm going to do HTML because I want to show the difference. Got a few other options here. Check this out. Once I display it, I can give the user the ability to print it as PDF, export as Excel or Word or text, up to you. And I can use the same technique. And that's one of the most powerful things about that. That's why I really almost always use these from now on, because I can do the job once and they say, oh, I need an Excel version of that. I go, great, done. That's the way it goes. So let me go ahead and put this report, webinar report underscore UX. Okay. Now, I know right away I need to be in live preview to show PDFs because it's leveraging the underlying browser. You can't show PDFs in working preview. So I'm going to go ahead and go right into live preview versus working preview. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. So on the left side, you should see my buttons. Right side, we have empty. Let's go ahead and do quick report. You'll see. And, oh, wait, what happened there? Layout report type is not defined. Let's see here. I'll have to go back and look at that in a moment. But let's look at FreeForm here. Okay, I'll go check that in a moment. I might have clicked the wrong button. But you'll notice when I click FF for FreeForm, you see it says working. And then you see here's my PDF showing up here. And this is a full PDF. I can kind of zoom in, I can zoom out. I can print this PDF, I can download this, I can refresh it, or change this style. So it's just showing a PDF viewer right here. Now, as you'll see, there's 2 things. One is that, notice when I click FF, it's working. Even though this is all on my local machine, it's still taking a couple seconds because it has to actually render the PDF and then bring the PDF down to the machine and then display it in the interface. And again, that's where you'll see some performance impacts. It's more traffic, you're putting more demands on your server, and you're kind of limiting in terms of what people can do with it. It's a PDF and that's all it is. Now, you may want that. That may be great. And you can do what you need to do from that standpoint, but it's really up to you on to that. Now I'm going to go ahead and click my layout table report, and I want you to watch that. And you'll see that the rendering time is less, and you'll see that it renders very nicely in my interface. So notice it doesn't have the chunky PDF-ish stuff around it. And you'll notice also I'm using my absolute layout, putting my information here. So it renders very quickly. on here. And also it's giving me these functions. So if I do need a PDF, I click that. I think this will work in here. And in a moment, it's going to render the PDF. I'm in where it could be in live preview, but it will download that PDF, and then I have an exact replication of this in my PDF from there. But I can also click Excel. It'll export this, and it does its best guess at exporting to L. Same thing with Word or print HTML. So the things I like about the layout table is, one, very fast render times. You can see that's even faster now because it's kind of has the information ready to go. Whereas a freeform, every time it has to go back, build the PDF, bring it down. And as you can see, the bigger reports can become, the slower they're going to be rendering. But the other thing I like about this is that I can allow people to do this. These are also controllable through the security system. So you can say, oh, if you're a manager, you can do this. If not, so you can control that in terms of what the people see. And again, this is using all HTML, so it renders very quickly and very nicely in your browser. And this is super important because, for instance, if you're on a mobile device, you may not even be able to render the PDF and show it. It'll make more sense to do it in there. So there's some sort of deployment options you have there. But this is kind of where I'm going to put a hold. I know I've pushed a lot in here. I wanted to kind of show you the conceptual differences between them. I kind of went down a rabbit hole on this, but I love this feature because look at that. I mean, my layout is off. It's not done properly. I have to stretch that out, but I can take a image, overlay some stuff, and it looks beautiful when it's rendered, especially when you go to a PDF, and it looks like something like if you have a control panel and you want to overlay little tags on it to show the data, you can do all these wonderful things with that and not be limited to just boxes and layouts and other things or having to do rendering. It's just quick and dirty, very simple to do those kind of capabilities there. So with that, Dave, I'm going to turn it back to you, see if we have any questions, and see if I could have any answers for those questions and see what goes from there.
Great.
Oh, Sarah! Oh, psych.
I've been here the whole time.
Oh, good. You got your
No,
got your
I just
stuff
wanted to
fixed.
surprise you.
Good.
Yeah, I got it.
A little trick.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask, give you the first question. It's a good question. This person asks why the system field for date is not including the time, and they want to know whether or not there's a way to turn that on and how you would do that.
Ooh, okay. The question again was?
The system date field in the report is not showing the time, and they wanted to know how.
Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and go to my table layout, and let me go ahead and just, I'm going to go ahead and split these. I'll go in here. I'm going to edit the cell content, and let's go ahead here, date. Okay, so I've selected date here, so it's going to show the date in here. But I believe what I can do is go to formatting here and edit the formatting. I can then define and put on my format. Okay, that's pure date. Yeah, no. So how I would do that probably is the following is, let's try and do this. Let's go edit cell content. Let's go here to expression. Let's edit that. And I believe I can just go now, and that will create the current time and date. So let's go ahead and save this and do a looking preview. So notice now it's giving me time and date, and that's of the time this report was run. So, there's a built-in one with date, but you can use the now function as an expression to actually put out the time and the date in here. And then what's nice within that is then you could go and format that to be exactly how you want it to look on the report itself. I would probably obviously put that down in the footer or something like that instead of on every row, but that's how I do it. And again, I did it by going to edit cell content, create an expression, and in here I created using the now. I just happen to know that. But notice we have this function over here where it will actually show you all the different functions that are available. Date, time, numeric, pointer, etc. And you can even call your own functions. There's some crazy stuff where if you've built a really fancy function to do a calculation, you can actually call that from within your report, so that when the report is rendered, it could run some fancy calculation and then put that out as a data element to put on your report. Pretty just unlimited in terms of what you can do with the report editor.
Excellent. All right.
Great
so
question.
next question has to do with groups, but also
Sarah,
has to
your
do with
voice,
headers
are you okay? It's a little
and
lower.
footers. Ever since
Are you guys playing with me? Or
so,
else, Dave,
Sarah will
your
be back.
impression of Sarah is fantastic. Okay.
Thank you. It took months of practice. All right. So the question is, let's say, for example, you wanted to create a report, and on the report you had your title on the first page, but you only wanted it on the first page. On subsequent pages, though, you wanted to have those column headers repeated from page to page. How would you go about doing that?
Okay. So Alpha uses what's called a banding concept. So you'll notice there's these bands. So this is your core band called the detail band. This is where every record in your result set will be published. But then you'll notice we have a band here called group. So I'm going to right click on that, go to properties, and you can see that what it's going to do is for every break in company name, and it does the sorting for you, then it's going to create a different, it's going to output this and then subsequently the items below it, the children associated with that. So it uses that pretty nicely. Now I'm going to go all the way up here, and I'm going to go here to report, and you'll see that we have different bands that are available. We have, for instance, we have, you can insert a group, so I could insert a new group. So let's say I want to do it on unique phone numbers, or it wouldn't make much sense, but maybe you had company, position, etc., that you'd want to do multi-levels, which work really nicely. But actually what you can do too, which is kind of powerful, is you can say, I want a report header or a page header. So right now you'll notice this is a report header. So the stuff inside this band right here will show up once at the top of my report. So let's go ahead and show you what that looks like here. So you'll see it says phone directory. Then I go to the next page and you'll notice it's not there anymore, because that's what's called a report header. So let's go ahead and go to here and go to properties. Actually, it's selecting here. I'll go here to there. I'm going to add a page header. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and merge these. I'm going to merge them together. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm just going to paste it in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, edit this, and I'll go on top of every page. Oh, nope. Let's see. Yeah, on this I'll go, this is actually the report header. So what I want to do is put in there maybe, let me edit the cell content. I'll say show only on first page. Okay. So now what's going to happen is that this section will show once at the very beginning of the report. This will show on every page if I've done it correctly. So we'll do that. So notice I have phone directory and it says show only on first page. Now I go to the next one. You'll notice it's only showing the phone directory, which is supposed to be on every page. This only shows on the first page. So that's what the idea behind it, of having page headers and report headers in the system. Likewise, you can also have what are called report footers and page footers, etc., within the system there. And you can also do other, within this report, you can do the properties. You can, give it some background. You can put like a backdrop behind stuff. You can alter certain things. You can play with that there. But that's how you would use these different headers to determine what is on the first page and then what is on every page, so that it looks pretty nice from that standpoint.
Now, if I recall, there's an option when you do a group a group header, to have it also repeat on every page as well.
Yes. So you go to properties
so let's take a look in properties.
Yeah, and I think there we go. Repeats at the page group, right there.
Right. So. Yeah. And the advantage to doing it that way is you kind of don't want to have if you're using it for column headers, right? If you use the page header one for your columns, you'd see the columns, then you'd see the report title, then you'd see the data. I suspect what they really want, though, is just to see the title, then the columns, with the columns repeating on the next one. So that might be it. That's just another way to do it.
It also has what's called a continuation header, which says, okay, it's continuing on the next page. So a lot of fun stuff you can do
Continuation header is very cool, because you could say, oh, Right, exactly. This is continued from previous page up at the top. So if you
Exactly.
flip to a particular page, mostly good for printed reports. Not often online. You kind of know where you are
Yeah.
because you're flipping through it. But if you're creating reports like that, it's great.
If you want to kill trees, this is your tool. The other is that you can also say start each group on a new page. So this is overkill for here, but you'll notice, okay, here's my first group, here's my second, and it would just put those records there. So cool. I should
Excellent.
have my, apologize, I should have off there. So someone wants me to do something with service power. So.
All right, then. Carry on. So another one, which I know you already answered, but maybe we could just show it one more time.
Yeah,
If you've got a quick report and you want to turn it into a layout table report, what are the steps to do that?
Oh, yep, no problem.
So you've already created the quick report. You're like, that's cool, but you know what? I want to do a layout table out of that. Mm-hmm.
You just open your quick report, and up here in Open Report Editor, you pick the kind of report you want, and then most importantly is do open a copy, because then you don't destroy your original quick report if you ever have to go back and redo it. It just saves time. Cool. So that's how you would do it there, and then that will automatically ask you to create a new report, and off to the races from there.
Awesome. This is something else I think you covered, or at least touched on. So if you're doing reporting, say from Transform, one of those controls I think is just the ink control. And the question is that I think it's stored as a character field when it comes in from Transform.
Correct.
How do you tell Alpha Anywhere that don't display it as a character field? That doesn't make sense. I want to see the actual signature. I want to see the ink there.
Okay. Yeah. So the trick on that, and it's been a while since I've done it, so let me go ahead and I'm going to close my quick report here.
Sure.
And I'm going to go back here to my report, and I'm going to go here to my quick report, and I'm going to say data source, edit data source. So if you ever have a situation where you need to modify your data source after you've created the report, you don't do that within the report. You go here, right click on here, and then edit the data source definition. Then it walks you through this here. Let's say you change the name of the table from customers to customer.
You left out some fields or something. I could totally see that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You'd say, yeah.
Yep. I need those there. Now I'm going to go down here to advanced object options. I'm going to click here, override field definitions of select field. So Alpha does its best to guess what kind of field is it. Is a text field? Is it a numeric field? It kind of tries its best, but sometimes you have to give it a little help. So now I click field definitions, and you'll notice that here are my fields I've selected in my query. Here's the default, what it's doing here, but we can override that. So for instance, I can convert time to date. I can edit that and say, you know what? I want the company name to actually be displayed as Inc., JSON, etc. So you'll see when the report editor sees the database, it's going to say, oh, that column is text. So I'm going to show it as text. But you're like, no, I want to tell the report that it's actually an Inc. set of text. So you do it here. You can also do that with, like, for instance, bitmaps, JPEGs, PNGs. Let's say you're storing images in your database here. So this allows you to go ahead and override it. So then the report writer says, oh, okay, I got it. You want, this is what that information is. So when it's interacting and creating the output, it's going to do it, process it correctly. So again, the way I did that real quick is I edited the, data source. I clicked advanced options, override field definitions of selected fields. This opens it up, and then I can edit and modify them to my heart's desire.
Now it looks like one of the options there on that list is an SVG image, which brings us up to another question. So thank you for answering that one. You showed off one of the options in the layout table report. You could place a static image. Maybe you're putting a logo or something like that for your company up at the top. But it looked like your options were basically raster files. Is that right? Pings, JPEGs, BMPs. I wonder, can you do an SVG? Or is there a way to do an SVG even if you can't do it using that particular feature?
Well, here's the deal. You can go in here in static HTML, put your SVG definition right here, and you're done. Because it's HTML. It's going to treat anything in there, and it's going to use the HTML sort of renderer to do the work for you. So that's how I would do that there. you'll notice in here, insert, no, this is the other commands. I can edit this in my HTML editor and stuff here, and I believe I can just plug stuff right in there, add the image to it from there. I don't know about SVG for there, but it's a lot of flexible things. But again, you can just put in your SVG right here and off to the right. And notice it says use CSS class names. Super important. This is nice because you can take all of your formatting out of the report and put them in CSS, and therefore it's going to be consistent across everything. So now when you create a new report, you don't have to go to each field and say, oh, this field is Verdana 12, bold, italic. You basically wrap the stuff with CSS. If you ever have to change your report saying, oh, you know what, I kind of want to have that a little bit bigger, you change that CSS file to say 16 point or 18 point, boom, when it renders, it's going to re-render it looking nicely, which is very handy because people change branding, they change things all the time. So definitely try to lean towards using CSS for all of your styling versus, I mean, you can within the report editor, I can go right here, click this, and then I have my traditional pick the font, pick the size, etc. You can definitely do that, but it's a little better to actually then apply a style to that cell. So if I edit the cell content, I can actually go here and, oh, by the way, you can display QR codes, which is kind of cool for, that's all there. But I can also add my own styles in here so that it presents properly and I can leverage that capability.
Fantastic.
I know.
Well, we are out of time. Dion, thanks so much for today's presentation on reporting. We got a lot of questions and I see we weren't able to get to all of them. If you could send your emails to guides, G-U-I-D-E-S @alphasoftware.com, we'll be happy to supply you with the answers. Thanks again, Dion and Sarah, for joining us. Thanks for all of you who joined us today. Hope to see you at our next webinar. Take care, have a great week, and stay well. Bye-bye.